Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're watching from. Today I want to talk to you about something so simple that many people overlook it for years. Not because it is unimportant, but because it feels too ordinary to matter. Walking, you have done it your whole life. You do it in the kitchen. You do it in the hallway. You do it when you go to the mailbox, the bathroom, the front door, the grocery store, or the doctor's office. It is one of the most familiar things in your entire life. And yet, for many adults over 70, walking slowly changes without them realizing it. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Just a little shorter. A little lower. A little more cautious. A little more guarded. Until one day, the way you walk is no longer helping to protect you. It is quietly putting you at risk. And that is what this video is about. Because the single most important thing I want you to hear today is this. Sometimes preventing a fall does not begin with buying a device, changing your shoes, or installing another grab bar. Sometimes it begins with correcting the pattern of the next step you take. One small change. One walking adjustment. One movement habit that can influence your balance, your posture, your confidence, and your safety every time you move. Here on Senior Health, we talk about practical things that support independence, strength, and confidence as the body changes with age. And today's topic may be one of the most practical of all. Because falls do not only happen during dramatic moments. Most falls happen during ordinary moments. Crossing the room. Turning in the kitchen. Walking down the hall, stepping over something small, getting distracted for 2 seconds. That is why everyday walking matters so much. If your steps have become shorter than they used to be, if your feet feel like they barely leave the ground, if you feel a little less steady when you walk, or if you catch yourself looking down at the floor more often than straight ahead, then this message is for you. Today, I am going to show you the walking pattern that creates trouble for many older adults, why it becomes dangerous, the one change that can immediately improve the way you move, and 5 simple home exercises that can help make that change feel natural again. No gym, no expensive equipment, no complicated routine, just better movement, practiced with purpose. And before we begin, let me invite you to do one thing. Stay with me all the way to the end, because the final section is where I will explain how to use this walking change in your real daily life, not just during practice. If you enjoy practical videos like this made especially for older adults, subscribe to Senior Health and turn on the bell so you do not miss what comes next. Now let's begin with the real problem. Section 1. The walking pattern that quietly increases fall risk. There is a walking style I see again and again in older adults, especially after a near fall, a painful injury, or a period of inactivity. It often starts with fear, not dramatic fear, not panic, just a quiet loss of trust. A person no longer feels fully confident in their balance, so without realizing it, they begin to move differently. They shorten the step. They keep the feet closer to the floor, they reduce arm swing, the body leans a little forward, the eyes drift downward, the whole system becomes cautious. That cautious-looking walk may feel safer, but in reality, it often becomes less safe. This pattern is commonly described as a shuffling gait. If that term sounds medical or unfamiliar, let me describe it in plain language. Imagine someone walking down a hallway and their feet barely lift off the ground. Each step slides forward a little instead of clearly picking up and moving through space. The stride is short. The body looks slightly hunched. The steps are quiet, low, and hesitant. The rhythm is smaller than it used to be. That is the pattern. And the reason it is risky is very simple. When the foot does not lift enough, even a tiny obstacle becomes a serious threat. A wrinkle in a rug, a threshold between rooms, a crack in the sidewalk, a slipper edge, a cord, a pet toy, the corner of a mat. These are not large dangers. But if your foot is only clearing the floor by a fraction, a small obstacle is all it takes. That is how many falls happen. Not because someone was doing something extreme, but because there was no margin for error in the step. And there is another problem. When people shuffle, they often lean slightly forward while taking very short steps. That means their center of gravity is no longer positioned as well for balance recovery. So if the toe catches the floor or an object, there is less time to react and less room to correct. In other words, the body is already in a weaker position before the trip even happens. That is why shuffling is so important to recognize. It feels cautious, but it is often unstable. And the difficult truth is that many people do not notice they are doing it until after a fall. You may be thinking, I don't shuffle. Maybe not. But ask yourself honestly, have your steps become shorter? Do your feet feel heavier? Do you sometimes feel like you are gliding forward instead of stepping forward? Do you look down at the ground a lot when you walk? Do you feel more secure moving slowly, but somehow not more stable? If any of that sounds familiar, then your walking pattern may be changing in exactly the way we are talking about today. The good news is that movement habits can be retrained, and often the first step to changing them is surprisingly simple. Section 2. Why this happens with age. Before I show you the walking correction, I want to explain why this pattern becomes so common. Because when people understand the reason, they stop blaming themselves. A shuffling walk does not usually appear because someone suddenly forgot how to walk. It develops because several systems change gradually over time. First, the muscles that help lift the leg may become weaker. That includes the hip flexors, the muscles around the hips, the glutes, and the core. If those muscles are not being challenged regularly, the leg may not lift as high or move as confidently as it once did. Second, ankle motion often becomes smaller. When the ankle gets stiff, the foot loses part of the smooth rolling action that normally happens during a healthy step. Instead of landing, rolling, and pushing off, the foot becomes flatter and less responsive. Third, many people become less active after pain, illness, surgery, or a near fall. Even a short period of moving less can change the body quickly. Muscles weaken. Reactions slow down. Confidence drops. Once confidence drops, movement becomes more guarded, and guarded movement often leads to even more weakness. That is how the cycle begins. Something causes caution. Caution changes the way you walk. The new walking pattern uses less strength and less range of motion. Because those muscles are used less, they weaken further. And the weaker they get, the more the body depends on the shuffling pattern. It becomes a loop. A quiet loop. And if nobody interrupts it, that loop can continue for months or years. There is also the issue of attention. When someone no longer feels steady, they often begin walking by watching the ground. That makes sense emotionally. It feels protective. But when your gaze drops all the time, your posture tends to drop with it. Your chest narrows, your upper back rounds, your head moves forward. That forward posture affects the entire balance system. So now the body is not only taking short, low steps, it is also carrying itself in a less stable shape. And then there is fear. Fear changes movement more than people realize. Fear makes steps smaller. Fear makes joints stiffer. Fear reduces natural rhythm. Fear reduces push-off. Fear makes the body try to stay close to the floor. The problem is that the body often interprets fear as a signal to move in ways that feel protected, but actually reduce stability. That is why many older adults need more than be careful. They need a better pattern. And that brings us to the walking change that matters most. Section 3. The one change land with the heel. Then roll through the foot. If I could teach one walking adjustment to an older adult who feels less steady, it would be this. Let each step begin with the heel. Not a flat foot slap. Not a toe first reach. Not a sliding foot. A clear, intentional heel contact. This is often called a heel first step or heel strike, and it is part of the natural walking pattern the body was designed to use. When walking mechanics are healthy, the heel contacts the ground first. Then the weight rolls through the middle of the foot. Then the toes push off to help create the next step. That creates a smooth sequence. Heel, roll, push, heel, roll, push. That rolling pattern matters because it gives the body a more stable base, better forward motion, and more efficient muscle use. When people begin shuffling, that sequence often disappears. The foot lands too flat, or it barely lifts and skims the floor, or the step becomes so short that there is almost no push-off at all. Once that happens, walking becomes less like a controlled roll and more like a cautious slide. So here is the change I want you to think about from now on. When you step, gently reach the heel forward first. Lift the foot clearly. Place the heel on the floor. Then allow your weight to move through the foot. Then push off through the toes. Do not force it dramatically. Do not overstride. Do not stomp. Just let the foot do the job it was meant to do. This one adjustment can begin to improve several things at once. It encourages the foot to clear the floor better. It restores some step length. It helps bring the body more upright. It asks the ankle to move properly. It invites the glutes and hips to contribute more. And most importantly, it interrupts the shuffle pattern. Think of it this way. A shuffle is a low, guarded, incomplete step. A heel-first step is a clearer, more organized, more confident step. That does not mean it will feel natural immediately. If you have been walking in a shuffling pattern for a while, this may feel strange at first. That is normal. Anything healthier can feel unfamiliar when the body has spent a long time practicing a different habit. But unfamiliar does not mean wrong. It often means you are waking up movement that has been neglected. And that is why practice matters. Not fast practice, not hard practice, deliberate practice. So before we talk about exercises, let me explain exactly what this should feel like. Stand tall. Do not throw your chest backward. Do not lean heavily forward. Keep your eyes looking ahead, not at your feet all the time. Lift one foot. Reach it a little farther than your shuffle habit would. Let the heel touch first. Then let the rest of the foot follow. Then push gently off the back foot. That is the pattern. And once you begin practicing it, the whole body starts receiving a different message. Not protect, not brace, not stay tiny, but move with structure. That is where progress begins. Section 4. What this change can do for your whole body. One reason I like teaching this walking correction is that it is not just about the foot. It affects the entire chain of movement. When the heel lands first, the step usually becomes slightly longer in a natural way. Not exaggerated, just more complete. That more complete step can help improve forward momentum, which means the body moves more smoothly instead of hesitating through every stride. The ankle also begins to do more of its proper work. Instead of staying stiff and flat, it starts to guide the rolling action of the foot. The knee responds better. The hip contributes more. The glutes engage more effectively. And because the body is no longer trying to live in a perpetual half-crouched shuffle. Posture often improves too. Many people do not realize how closely posture and gait are connected. If the head is down, the shoulders are rounded, the chest is collapsed, and the steps are short, the body feels smaller and less stable. But when the eyes lift, the trunk organizes, and the step rolls from heel to toe, the whole system tends to look and feel more capable. That can affect confidence, and confidence matters. Because someone who trusts their step tends to move more normally. Someone who does not trust their step often becomes stiffer and smaller. That stiffness can be just as dangerous as weakness. Now let me be clear. A heel-first step is not a magic trick. It will not solve every balance issue. It will not erase neurological disease. It will not replace medical care if there are serious problems. but it is one of the most meaningful movement corrections an older adult can practice if their walking pattern has become shorter, lower, and more cautious. And when you combine it with the right exercises, it becomes even more effective. So now let's move to the home routine. These 5 exercises are designed to make that heel-first pattern easier, stronger, and more automatic in daily life. Take your time with them, do them near support, and never rush. Section 5. Exercise 1 heel-first practice walk. The first exercise is the most important because it teaches the actual walking pattern directly. This is not exercise in the traditional sense. It is retraining. Here is how to do it. Find a hallway, countertop, or long open space where you can move safely. If you need support, stand close enough to a wall or sturdy surface that you can lightly touch it. Now begin walking very slowly. Not your normal speed, slower. With each step, think about just one thing: heel first. Lift the foot. Reach the heel forward. Place the heel down. Roll through the foot. Push off. Then repeat. Take 10 slow steps this way. Turn carefully. Then take 10 steps back. That is 1 round. Do 3 rounds. Rest between rounds if you need to. The key here is not distance. The key is attention. You are not trying to get somewhere. You are teaching your body how to step again. I want you to notice the difference between sliding the foot and placing the foot. Sliding is passive. Placing is controlled. Sliding is what the shuffle does. Placing is what better walking begins to restore. You may notice that one leg feels easier than the other. That is common. One side is often weaker, stiffer, or less coordinated. Do not get discouraged by that. Just observe it. Slow practice gives your brain time to rebuild the timing of the movement, and timing is everything in walking. If you want to make this even more useful, say the pattern quietly to yourself as you move heel. Roll, push, heel, roll, push. That cue alone can help anchor the movement in your mind. Do not worry if it feels unnatural during the first few days. That is how relearning works. You are not failing because it feels awkward. You are practicing because it feels awkward. That is exactly why the exercise matters. Section 6. Exercise 2, supported high knee march. The second exercise focuses on foot clearance. Remember, one reason people shuffle is that the leg stops lifting enough. So this exercise teaches the body to pick the foot up again instead of dragging it forward. Stand behind a sturdy chair or at a kitchen counter. Hold lightly for support. Stand tall. Now lift one knee upward in a marching motion. Not as high as possible, but clearly and deliberately. Then lower it with control. Then lift the other knee. Alternate sides. Do 15 lifts per leg. Move slowly enough that you could stop at any point without losing balance. That control matters. This exercise strengthens the muscles that help lift the leg and move it through the swing phase of walking. It also improves coordination because marching requires the body to spend a moment standing on one leg while the other lifts. That is exactly what walking is: controlled single-leg balance repeated over and over. A few things to watch for: do not lean backward as the knee comes up. Do not yank the leg with momentum. Do not rush. And do not hold your breath. Stay tall. Lift from the hip. Lower with control. If this becomes easy, you can progress it by walking forward slowly while marching. Lift the knee, then place the heel down first. Lift the other knee, then place that heel down first. Now you are connecting the exercise directly to your improved walking pattern. That is where the real benefit happens. Because strength by itself is good, but strength connected to movement is even better. Section 7. Exercise 3, step length practice. The third exercise is about restoring a healthier stride. When people lose confidence, the step often becomes very short. But an overly short step can disrupt rhythm and stability. So in this drill, we gently encourage the body to take a more complete step. You can do this in a hallway. Place 2 markers on the floor if you like. They can be pieces of tape, a visual line in the tile, or simply imagined targets. Stand at one end. Now take a step forward and aim to let your heel land slightly farther ahead than your current habit would normally allow. Not huge, not forced, just intentional. Then step with the other foot the same way. Continue for 10 steps. Turn carefully and return. Do 2 or 3 rounds. This is not about lunging. It is not about stretching to the limit. It is about reversing the tiny, cramped pattern that shuffling creates. A healthier step often feels smoother and more confident because the body has room to move through the full cycle of walking. Short, cramped steps keep the body trapped. Slightly longer, controlled steps help free the rhythm again. As you do this exercise, keep thinking about the sequence. Lift the foot. Reach the heel. Land gently. Roll through. Push off. If it helps, imagine you are stepping over a line rather than sliding toward it. That image alone can improve how cleanly the foot moves. And do not worry if your step length is modest at first. The goal is improvement, not exaggeration. Even a small increase in stride quality can make walking safer and more efficient. Section 8. Exercise 4, slow motion walking. This may be the hardest exercise in the routine, but it is also one of the most valuable. Slow motion walking strips away momentum, and when momentum disappears, the body can no longer hide its weaknesses behind speed. That is why this exercise teaches so much. Find a safe hallway or walking space near support. Now walk as slowly as you possibly can. So slowly that one full step takes several seconds. Lift the foot. Pause briefly. Move it forward with control. Set the heel down. Shift your weight. Push off. Then repeat. Walk the length of the hallway this way. Turn carefully. Come back. Do 2 rounds. You may feel wobbly doing this. That does not necessarily mean something is wrong. It often means the balance system is being challenged in a useful way. When you move slowly, the ankle has to stabilize more consciously. The core has to assist more. The hip has to organize the leg more clearly. The foot has to find the floor with more awareness. All of that is good training. Normal walking happens too quickly for many people to notice what is missing. Slow motion walking makes the missing pieces visible, and once they become visible, they can be improved. If you find this difficult, that is okay. Difficult does not mean dangerous as long as you are using support, moving carefully, and practicing within your limits. Difficulty often means the exercise is targeting exactly what needs attention. Over time, this slow practice can make normal speed walking more stable because the nervous system becomes better organized. And for many older adults, that improved organization is exactly what reduces those uncertain, shaky moments during daily movement. Section 9. Exercise 5, Controlled Step-Over Drill. Now we take the improved walking pattern and bring it into a more real-world situation. Because everyday life includes obstacles. A routine that only works on a perfectly clear hallway is not enough. So for this exercise, place a soft object on the floor. A rolled towel works well. So does a pool noodle or another lightweight object that will not hurt you if you touch it. Stand a few feet away with support nearby. Walk toward the object slowly and normally. As you approach it, do not wait until the last second. This is important. I want you to plan the step early. Lift the foot clearly, step over the object, land with the heel on the other side, then bring the other foot over. Continue for a few more steps. Turn carefully. Repeat in the other direction. Do 5 passes each way. This exercise trains anticipation. That is a big part of fall prevention. Many trips happen not only because the foot does not lift enough, but because the body recognizes the obstacle too late. This drill teaches the brain to see, prepare, lift, clear, and place. That sequence is incredibly important. As you practice, focus on confidence, not speed. Step over with room to spare. Do not clip the object on purpose. Do not test how close you can get. Give yourself margin. Margin is safety. And if this becomes easier with time, you can vary the challenge very gently by changing the height a little, using a different object, or practicing while carrying something light in one hand. That begins to resemble real life more closely. Because in real life, people are often holding the mail, carrying a cup, turning their head, or thinking about something else when they move. The more skill you build in practice, the more protection you carry into those ordinary moments. Section 10. How to use this in daily life now. Let's talk about the part that matters most. How do you take this from exercise into everyday living? Because that is the real goal. Not just practicing better walking for 5 minutes, but actually walking better when it counts. Here is how. First, choose a few regular moments in your day as walking reminders. For example, when you walk to the bathroom, when you go to the kitchen, when you stand up from your favorite chair, when you walk to the mailbox, when you go down the hallway at night. During those moments, say to yourself, lift, heel, roll, push. That one phrase can become your personal cue. Second, stop trying to move too quietly. Many people who have become cautious start moving in a way that is almost sneaky, as if silent feet are safer feet. Not necessarily. Safe walking is not about disappearing into the floor. It is about clearing the floor well enough and placing the foot with purpose. Third, let your eyes come up. You do not need to stare at the ceiling, but you also do not want your head dropped all day toward your toes. Look ahead more often. Trust your practice. A better gaze often creates a better posture, and better posture often creates a better step. Fourth, do not confuse slow with stiff. You can walk slowly and still walk well. A good slow step is lifted, placed, and rolled. A poor slow step is dragged, braced, and shuffled. Those are not the same thing. Fifth, remember that turning is often where people feel unstable. So, when turning, especially in the kitchen or bathroom, do not twist carelessly on one foot. Take smaller, deliberate steps. Reorganize, then continue walking with the heel-first pattern. And finally, use your home as feedback. Notice where you feel least confident. The hallway? The bathroom? The garage entry? The outdoor path? Those are the places where your new walking pattern needs the most attention. Practice where life actually happens. That is what makes training meaningful. Section 11. Common mistakes to avoid now. I want to help you avoid a few common mistakes that can make this correction less effective. The first mistake is overreaching. Some people hear longer step and immediately try to lunge forward. That is not what we want. A safer step is not dramatically longer. It is simply more complete. Think natural, not exaggerated. The second mistake is stomping the heel. You want the heel to arrive first, yes, but not harshly. This is not a marching band. The step should be deliberate and smooth. The third mistake is leaning backward while trying to lift the leg. When people force the knee up, they sometimes throw the torso back. That shifts balance the wrong way. Stay upright. The fourth mistake is moving too fast too soon. People often do 1 or 2 practice rounds, feel a little improvement, and then immediately try to take the new pattern into full-speed walking. That can backfire. Build it gradually. Slow first, then consistent, then natural, then faster. The fifth mistake is expecting perfection immediately. You are not trying to walk like a 25-year-old. You are trying to walk more safely and more efficiently than you did yesterday. That is enough. And the sixth mistake is quitting, because the change feels strange. Of course it feels strange. If your body has been using a guarded shuffle for months or years, a better step will feel unfamiliar at first. That does not mean it is wrong. It means it is new. Give it repetition. Your nervous system learns through repeated experience, not through one perfect session. Section 12. Safety first. Before you practice any of these exercises, I want to give you a serious but simple safety reminder. Always practice near support if you are unsure. A hallway wall, kitchen counter, or sturdy chair can make a huge difference. Wear shoes that do not slide, or practice barefoot only if the surface is safe and stable for you. Remove loose rugs, clutter, and anything that could become a hazard during practice. Do not rush these exercises. And stop immediately if you feel sharp pain, dizziness, chest discomfort, severe shortness of breath, or anything that feels clearly wrong. If you have had a recent fall, recent surgery, severe neuropathy, significant dizziness, or a condition affecting your balance, talk with your doctor or physical therapist before starting a new movement routine. There is no shame in needing guidance. The goal is not to prove anything. The goal is to move more safely. And that means respecting your current situation. Progress made carefully is still progress. In fact, it is usually the kind that lasts. Section 13. Why consistency matters more than intensity. One of the biggest mistakes people make with movement after 70 is assuming that improvement has to be dramatic to be real. It does not. The body responds very well to repetition, especially when the repetition is clear and intentional. You do not need a punishing workout to change a walking habit. You need regular reminders. A few minutes of heel-first walking done daily can do more for gait retraining than a much harder session done once a week and then forgotten. That is because your nervous system learns by exposure. It learns what you repeat. If you repeat shuffling all day, the shuffle becomes stronger. If you repeat lifted, heel first, controlled steps every day, that pattern becomes stronger. That is why short, consistent practice matters so much. 3 rounds in the hallway. A few marching repetitions at the counter. A step over drill near the wall. Those little efforts add up. And over time, the body begins to trust the new pattern. When the body trusts the new pattern, walking becomes less forced. When walking becomes less forced, confidence returns. When confidence returns, many people move more. And when they move more, the muscles stay more awake. That is how the cycle starts changing in your favor. Not overnight, but steadily. And steady progress is what preserves independence. Section 14. The bigger goal: independence at the end of the day. This conversation is not only about gait mechanics. It is about freedom. The freedom to walk from one room to another without fear. The freedom to answer the door without feeling unsteady. The freedom to go outside and enjoy the air without thinking every step might betray you. The freedom to move through your own home like it still belongs to you. That matters. A lot. Because the fear of falling can shrink a person's life long before a fall ever happens. It can make someone avoid walking, avoid leaving the house, avoid stairs, avoid carrying things, avoid normal life. And once life starts shrinking, strength often shrinks with it. So if this video helps you reclaim even a little confidence in the way you step, that is not a small thing. That is a meaningful thing. Improving your walk is not vanity. It is not performance. It is protection. It is function. It is one of the clearest ways to support the kind of independence most older adults want to keep for as long as possible. And the beautiful part is this: the next better step can begin today, not next month, not after buying something, not after waiting for the perfect time. Today, in your hallway, in your kitchen, with your next conscious heel first step. Closing, so let's quickly bring it all together. If your walking has become shorter, lower, or more cautious, you may be slipping into a shuffling pattern without realizing it. That pattern increases fall risk because the feet do not clear the floor well, the posture often shifts forward, and the body has less room to recover from a trip. The most important correction is simple: lift the foot. Reach with the heel. Land heel first, roll through the foot. Push off through the toes, and then reinforce that pattern with the 5 exercises we covered today. The heel first practice walk. the supported high knee march, the step-length drill, the slow-motion walk, and the controlled obstacle step over. Do them carefully. Do them consistently. Do them with patience. Because better walking is not built through panic. It is built through practice. And if you stay with it, what starts as an awkward correction can become a more natural, confident, and protective way to move through your day. If this video helped you, subscribe to Senior Health, like the video, and share it with someone who may need this message. And I would love to hear from you in the comments. Have you noticed your steps getting shorter? Or do you feel less steady when walking than you did a few years ago? Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of yourself, move with intention, and remember, a safer future is often built one better step at a time.